Good morning, all. Oh, you have to excuse my my voice this morning. I've got a bit of a sore throat after working yesterday. What I want to talk to you about today is trance, the type of trance that I do. I do deep trance, which means that I go into a deep hypnotic state during the trance period. During this time, I don't see, hear, or experience things in the normal way that I would if I was in the conscious state. I have very little to no recollection of what happens during the period I'm in trance. I have some recollection as I'm going into trance. I have some recollection as I'm coming out of trance. But the period in between, I very, very, very rarely have any idea what has gone on. There's been odd occasions when I haven't gone quite so deep, when I have been able to remember certain things, but most of the time that doesn't happen. When I first start to go into trance, you will probably hear some deep breathing. In fact, you will hear deep breathing. I breathe very deeply because it is the exercise I go through to take me into that hypnotic state that I need to be in for the trance to work. The breathing is very deep. You may also hear some chanting. This chanting also continues throughout the trance between people that come in. So different people that come in, there may be a break off with some chanting, and then the next person will come in. This doesn't always happen. Sometimes the people just come in automatically without there being a break. I might switch from one voice to another almost immediately. There will also be some chanting if anything comes through that is not allowed, not permitted in a public demonstration. What happens then is the trance the trance person will begin to talk, and then you will hear the chanting over the top of this until, shall we say, the spirit that's coming through takes the hint and goes elsewhere for the time being. It doesn't mean to say that we won't welcome that spirit back at another time to find out what they want and what they need to say. It's just that it's not always appropriate when we are doing a public demonstration due to various reasons. Either the person might not be very nice, which is quite rare. They may have something very, very personal to say, or it could well be that it is to do with something that is either in the public eye or is a criminal case, something like that. So therefore it would not be appropriate for all and sundry to hear about it. Okay. Right, basically back to what happens when I'm in trance and the procedures. During the trance state, I will invite anyone to come in who has anything to say whatsoever. It doesn't matter whether they're associated with a person in the room, or whether they're associated with the building, or if they're just coming through for any other reason, either to give some helpful advice to everyone who's there, or they've just got something to say. It's very rarely that I channel higher beings and guides, because I do prefer to ask for normal everyday people to come through, because it's much easier to be able to to check up on the information they give, to gain knowledge from the information they give. I think basically what happens next, I am not really aware of. So I always have an earthly control sat with me, because they can then communicate between me and the members of the public, or whoever's present, and I recognise that voice, so I respond to that voice, whereas I might not respond to the voice of a member of the public. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It entirely depends upon the spirits coming through. But the earthly control is there for quite a few reasons. They are there to make sure that the procedure goes smoothly. They are there to make sure that nothing happens during the trance state that could endanger me or anyone else. And in the event that anything unruly or unforetold happens, they can bring me back at a moment's notice. About bringing me back, normally I would come back myself after a period of time. I will set myself a period of time for being in trance. Usually around about an hour, something like that. But I might say start a trance demonstration at 7:15 and say I've got to be through by 8 o'clock. And in which case, at 8 o'clock, the chanting will, or just before the chanting will start, and I will be back for 8 o'clock or just after. Sometimes people get very upset while I'm doing a trance demonstration, and this is another purpose of the earthly control. I tend to work a lot with my eyes open, and I have been told that I do stare at people, and it can be quite unnerving. Believe me, I can't see you. I have no idea that I'm staring, and I don't single out a particular person to stare at. It's just I'm staring into space, basically, and if you happen to be in the direction of that stare, then unfortunately it appears as though I'm staring at you, but really I'm not. I have no awareness that I'm doing that, and I have no awareness of who is sat in front of me. Sometimes during trance I may point in a general direction because I know that someone is there, and I know that the person I need to communicate is there, communicate with is there, but don't always know exactly where they are. As in a normal mediumship demonstration, you can actually see the people and you can go, oh, I want to come to the lady in the red jumper or whatever. It doesn't work like that because we're in the dark. All we've got is a red light, which doesn't give much light at all. So you can probably see me a lot clearer than I would be able to see you. To me, it would just be blackness, so I wouldn't be able to kind of pinpoint, but I may say something about there's a lady there. I may even give a name of who the person is, or tell them, that I am their father or mother or brother, sister, so that they will know who is coming through for them. The messages aren't always, as I said, for people in the audience. Sometimes they are about the building themselves, and they are about people who have either lived in the building or worked in the building. And sometimes they can be quite jovial and quite interesting. And Spirit likes to laugh. They don't like to be serious all the time. They're like us. We're not making a mockery of it because they like to have a bit of fun. It's quite, it's nice, it's normal, it's permitted to laugh along with them. Right, okay, so basically we've gone through that about the staring and whatever. It's very important when I'm in trance for people not to make sudden noises, not to flash cameras. We don't allow public recording of the event because of security reasons, just in case something does come through that is a little bit sensitive. We obviously don't want it being broadcast all around the world. So we tend to say no video recording. We don't mind pictures being taken, but as I said, we don't really want flash pictures. We don't want torches shone, bright lights shone directly at me could cause an immense problem, as could loud noises. So during the trance, if at all scared or wanting to leave the room for whatever reason, then you get the attention of the earthly control, and the earthly control will then make sure that you can leave the room safely without me being alarmed. They will either inform me that someone is going to leave the room and there may be the sound of a door banging or something like that. Or if it is in a dire emergency, if somebody goes into a blind state of panic and starts running and screaming, the earthly control will relay to me what is happening and will bring me back out of the trance state. And obviously, if it's a public demonstration, we'd rather you didn't do that because it disturbs the whole procedure, and we don't know whether we're going to get the trance state again that night. I mean, we should do, but it's not always guaranteed because we don't know how much damage it is going to do if somebody does make any sudden or loud noises. Also, it's very important not to touch me or any other medium when they're in a deep state of trance, because it could result in shock, and especially if they are a physical medium, because there may be ectoplasmic influences around them, which would result in quite nasty problems. During the trance, as I said, there will be various people who come through. Sometimes they will stay quite a while and have a good chat with you, and will relay a lot of information. Sometimes they will just come in briefly and maybe just be there to have a quick look around, see if there's anybody there they want to talk to, and disappear almost as quickly as they came. We will have various entities coming in. They could be man, woman, child. I've not yet had an animal speak through me, but that, who knows? If I start barking, you know it's perhaps your long lost dog that's gone into spirit. But it could be man, woman and child, and the voices can swap quite quickly between those, between the sexes and age groups. You've got to remember that because they're using my voice box, it will be my voice. Sometimes the voice will change drastically. Sometimes it won't change a lot. But Spirit usually tries to make you aware of who they are, and what sex they are, and obviously ages are a little bit more difficult because some people's voices sound a lot older than others, but as they do here on the earth plane. But there will be a difference in tone, sometimes accent, sometimes even language, and you will be aware of some quite drastic changes. Sometimes I will transfigure, which means that my face or my body may look different. I may appear taller, broader, smaller. The features of my face might change. The certain parts of my body might look different. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It is just energy, pure, simple energy, because that's what we're all composed of. And Spirit uses that energy to show you who they are and let you know that they're still there with us, even though the shell has moved on, and has decomposed. Coming out of trance. Oh, sorry. One thing I forgot to mention: you will be allowed to ask questions of any of the spirits that come through, but it's very wise to indicate that you wish to ask a question by raising your hand, and then the earthly control will come to you, will ask your name, or will indicate to me that the man or the woman or whoever's present, very rarely children, but I wouldn't really want a child sitting in on trance, but if it so happened that trance happened and there was a child present and the child wanted to ask a question, then obviously I would answer it. But that would, to me, that wouldn't really be a suitable situation. So it's highly unlikely it would be a child. And once the earthly control has told me that a different voice is going to be speaking to me, then you can ask questions directly to me, or you can ask questions to the earthly control, who will then say, this person wants to know such and such. And I will answer questions that I am able to answer. Obviously, sometimes there are things that even spirit don't know, that you really can't answer. Or there may be things where there's an element of doubt that as to exactly what happened. Most of the time, they will answer your questions, and they will answer them as fully as possible. But as I said, sometimes they don't. But then again, that's out of my control. As you realise that people don't change just because they've passed away. So if they were a bit elusive or whatever when they were here, then naturally they're going to be the same when they pass. When I come out of trance, we may stop mid-sentence, mid-message, because if I've set a certain time when I'm going to be back, believe me, spirit is a stickler for time, especially when they're in control of the medium. And if they think, right, okay, you've done your work, now time to come back, you will come back, regardless of what you're trying to do. So sometimes the spirit that's coming through will get cut off, and it's not meant to be rude. It just, as I said, it's just a safety precaution that is instilled within myself and controlled by a subconscious or whatever you like to call it. Some people will say it's spirit controlling me. I mean, some people will have a more scientific explanation for it. And believe me, I do try and look into the scientific side of things as well as the spiritual. When it is time for me to come back, chanting may start again. My breathing will change. I will gradually come back. The first minute or so that I'm back, I will be a little bit disorientated and will not be aware of where I am for a couple of minutes. Then once I do familiarise myself with my surroundings, then I will invite questions from you. Obviously, I can't answer questions about the spirits that came through, because until I've actually listened to any recordings, I have no idea what's happened. So I can answer you questions about how I feel, what goes on with me when I'm in trance, anything you want to know about my thoughts, my feelings, whether I sense the people that are coming through, whatever, and I will explain as fully as I can all that to you. If you wish to ask any questions about anything that came through, then your questions need to be directed to the earthly control, who will be able to tell you what they believe happened. But once again, we cannot exactly tell you everything until we've listened to the recordings back, because sometimes there is not just one voice on the recordings. Sometimes there's 2, 3, we've had as many as 7 or 8 voices all speaking at once. So the recordings themselves are a completely different entity, and in themselves are very entertaining, and sometimes and interesting. And sometimes I will run workshops where I bring along some recordings and allow people to listen to them and give their opinion on them, and we can have a discussion about what you feel may have gone on then. Anyway, I think that's about all I can tell you at the moment. And if you've got any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. And please send me a message if you would want to. Your comments on my videos would be very much appreciated. And I will speak to you again soon. And bye for now.